Here we see a youth putting a firework through a letterbox, and the firework subsequently explodes in the house. As far as I'm concerned, this seems to be attempted murder. If you're doing something that's very likely to set fire to someone's house while they're in it, maybe particularly while they're upstairs asleep, for example, that is an extremely serious crime. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of a very widespread problem in Edinburgh and here across Scotland as well. The youth disorder in general, but particularly around Halloween and bonfire night. And in Edinburgh, just to my side of Edinburgh, even on bonfire night, some cars in front of a car dealer had their windows broken. Youth set up roadblocks of burning bins. There were like fires all over the place, fireworks being fired at houses, police, you name it. I was at a hustings last night in Oxgangs, and one of the questions from a local person was, what are you going to do about antisocial behaviour? Gareth Kirk, our chairman in Biggar, I was talking to someone in Peebles recently, and they were saying youth disorder is a major problem in Peebles. I always remember a couple of years ago going to the police station in Wester Hales, and the police officer I was speaking to had got his arm in a sling. And I said to him, was that an injury in the course of duty? And he said, yes, it was. He was policing the meadows, I think on a Saturday night, and basically a schoolboy attacked him and broke his arm, jumped on him and knocked him over and broke his arm. Now, a couple of years ago, the problem in the meadows in Edinburgh was very serious, huge congregations of youths committing all types of crimes. You hear repeated stories of problems in shops where not just young people, but in particular young people, going in and just taking what they want. Absolutely brazen in broad daylight. They don't even try and, it's not like, you hide it under your coat while you're walking out of the shop. Just pick it up, stick two fingers up at the shop assistants, walk out straight past them. They know they're not going to do anything, and that's the way they get what they want from a shop. And other sorts of misbehaviour in shops as well, like riding bikes around shops, just being really abusive and obnoxious, vandalism in shops, tipping things over, etc. It just so happened last night, I said there was a local hustings for the council by-election. I was walking along the Braid Burn. There were three girls. How old would they be? I don't know, 14 maybe. And they came out. I'm not quite sure what they were doing. One of them had painted nails on. Maybe it was a bit Halloweenish or whatever. But they're sort of shouting and in my face or whatever. A really disrespectful, provocative, obnoxious sort of behaviour. So I could probably go on and on for a long time. You can watch these videos going on. But it's pretty clear there's a serious problem. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention as well there is buses. Lothian buses in Edinburgh refuse to run some of their services through certain areas at certain times of day because the buses will get pelted with stones, for example. So the bus services do not operate. So this is a major problem for citizens in Edinburgh. It's a major problem for the youths involved. I mean, what path are they on? And if they carry on this way, they'll probably find themselves in prison. And also, as the reputation of Edinburgh, and maybe Scotland more widely, as a place of disorder grows, that will hit the city in lots of other ways. When people are thinking, shall we invest here? Shall we go on holiday here? Well, it's not going to encourage people, is it? But with these sort of issues, when it comes to politics, everyone, absolutely everyone, is an expert in the problem. I mean, the Conservatives are great at this in the Scottish Parliament. They'll stand up and they'll reel off a list of examples of things that have gone wrong, things that have been happening. Everyone's an expert in the problem, but how about solutions? Well, various solutions proposed. I mean, the first one, this is that typical SNP think, is you have a fireworks ban. Now, I've got mixed feelings about that. Okay, maybe it might be necessary in some contexts, but I think fireworks are a lot of fun. And my worry would be if you have a fireworks ban, then basically the out-of-control youths will still be doing exactly the same as they did before, and you're running away into the bushes and the police never catch them. But then you get dad in the garden with his couple of kids trying to fire a couple of rockets. He ends up arrested. That's what will tend to happen with a fireworks ban. But even if a fireworks ban is helpful in some ways, it's obviously not getting to the heart of the problem. But other people say we need the police. Then more, the police need to be on the scene to try and calm things down and control things. Well, yes, that might well be helpful, but you can't just have more and more police on every street corner all over Scotland. It's just not going to be possible. They're going to have to prioritise. More active policing, more police officers on the spot will be helpful, but it can't be the ultimate solution to a very quickly growing problem. Now, what the police do when they turn up somewhere, we can maybe look at that. Because, for example, the firework disorder, I would describe it as rioting. But what the police tend to do is they arrive with their riot shields, stand in a row, and then as far as I can tell, the kids and the youths think, oh right, this is even more fun now. Instead of just firing our fireworks at random houses or whatever, we can fire them at the police. We've got a target. And sometimes I think these riot shields should have a target on the front of them. Because that's obviously the understanding, isn't it? The police, we're behind the shields. We're going to stand here still, and you can sort of do what you like, and that will be quite fun. I would rather see the police turn up with dogs, I don't know, drones, tasers, whatever's necessary. Because if you've got police officers standing behind their riot shields and people are throwing petrol bombs at them or hurling bricks at them, again, as far as I'm concerned, that's attempted murder. They're trying to kill police officers. I mean, someone I know was a police officer at one of these incidents of disorder in Edinburgh last year, and he was literally set on fire by a petrol bomb. He wasn't seriously injured, they had protective gear on. But the people doing those things, they're doing their best to kill the police officers. And so the response has got to be extremely, extremely strong. I believe when the police turn up at such an incident, all the youths there, their blood should run cold. They should be terrified. Oh no, the police are here. Let's run, let's try and get home, and then keep our heads down. Because we're really afraid of what will happen if the police get hold of us. But is that the case? No. It's more that the police turn up, then it seems to be the police stand still and hide behind the shields, while the youths continue doing what they were doing. And it's completely the wrong way around. Now, obviously, even if the police did arrest people, some arrests have been made, but there needs to be a lot more, then what happens then? And then the justice system is very soft on children in Scotland, and inevitably, you know what I'm going to say next, I mean, the moves are to make it softer and softer and softer, to continue to diminish the responsibility of young people for crimes that they commit. But now I would like to see some more severe punishments given to young people and to children. Now, the reason for that is, if you can actually give someone a punishment that teaches them a lesson and makes them think, I'm not going to do that again, then you've actually done them a favour. You've done them a favour. So if you have a sentence of, 100 hours working in the local park, labouring in the local park, real hard work on a Saturday morning, then that might really change someone's ways. That really might make them think that they don't want to get that again. But that's pretty unlikely. You may say administering punishments like that is very expensive, very difficult, but I would say it'd be well worth the money. Now, what else do people say? People say the young people are bored. If they just had more to do, then they wouldn't be on the streets causing all of this mayhem. Sports is one of the things people talk about, obviously. Last night at the hustings, one of the other candidates was saying, well, young people are not so into football anymore. What we need is more recording studios full of expensive audiovisual equipment where they can go and record songs. I mean, really? What scale do you have to do that at? I mean, that's not really realistic. Now, activities that give young people a purposeful thing to do. Okay, that's obviously a positive thing. That's good. I think if they're run by organically within the community rather than by the council or the government, that's even better. But ultimately, it's not getting to the heart of the problem. I mean, when I get really bored, I don't try and set my neighbour's house on fire or go out and try and kill a police officer. That's not what I do. So activities like that, good, very worthwhile, but not getting to the heart of the problem. Right, the causes of the problem, what can we do about it? A major cause, I think, of this is fatherlessness. And I think we need to create a culture in which where a woman, if she said, right, I'm going to be with one bloke, I'm not really committed to him, I'm going to have a baby with that one, and then, right, he'll wander off, then I'll find another bloke, have another baby, that needs to be recognised as a bad choice. That's an irresponsible way to lead your life. Now, the trend at the moment tends to be more, you can't possibly be judgmental, especially not to a woman. I mean, that's especially bad. All choices are valid, and it's all fine. But we've got to get away from that. There are bad choices. There are irresponsible choices. And then when it comes to men as well, same message. So if you've got men who are fathering children that they're not responsible for, that they don't act as a father with, then that's a failure in responsibility. And again, in our society, that should be something that is condemned, too strong a word, something that is certainly strongly disapproved of and seen as a bad choice, and a failure to fulfill an important responsibility. Now, of course, ultimately the solution to these issues is a culture of marriage, and marriage in the absolutely traditional sense, as in marriage as the context for having sex. And that takes away this problem. So people only have sex with people that they are genuinely committed to in a lifelong relationship, they've really got to know, and they've judged their character and are committed with, then that will maximize family stability. But at the moment, the trend is still, I would say, away from that. But we would try and restore that. There are lots of ways the Scottish Family Party is and would try to restore that. The other thing with family dysfunction like this, fatherlessness, is it tends to be that wealthier people get married and tend to have more stable relationships. Less wealthy people tend not to get married and have less stable relationships. So this is a real driver of poverty and disadvantage in many ways, which is probably why our excellent wedding box policy is intended to help people with some of the expenses that might deter them from getting married. So we'd want to tackle that issue at the root. Now, the next cause, in my view, is weak parenting. Now, one reason for that is a lot of people, young boys in particular, being brought up by single mums, and often in a couple, it's the dad who's a bit more the disciplinarian. He'll put his foot down. Mum might be a bit more pastoral and caring. But if you take out the dad, leave it all to the mum, then sometimes mum can struggle with that, particularly with young boys. And if it's the setup where, for example, the kids see dad at the weekend, then dads may be more in, okay, I want to give them a treat. I want them to enjoy their time with me. I never want them to say, I don't really want to see dad anymore. So it becomes more like playtime. And so the dad's natural or proper role, if you like, of being a bit of a disciplinarian, putting his foot down, telling them what's right and what's wrong, making it clear what's what, is less likely to do that in that context. So I think that's a problem. But in families in general, whether they're intact or separated, then I still think the cultural trend is towards weak parenting. There's the idea you've got to have clear boundaries. Okay, right, completely agree. But what happens if they're broken? What happens then? We had the naughty step a few years ago, but even the naughty step is seen as too harsh and traumatizing now. So, okay, clear boundaries, but what if they're broken? So I think we've got a culture of unassertive parenting, unassertive in manner and unassertive in action. I mean, one way of seeing it is the general trend is trying to turn dads into mums, whereas dads naturally will be a bit more assertive, disciplinarian, a bit more firm. But the pressure from our culture is to communicate to dads, basically, that's wrong. You shouldn't do that. What you should really be doing is to turn into a mum, is to behave like mums do, which then takes away the complementary qualities and I think leads to indiscipline. The classic example of this, I would say, is soap operas. I don't watch any soap operas, but I'm sure it's still the same. Maybe you do. Is the classic scenario is that kid has misbehaved in some way, and dad really has a go at them. Says that's totally out of order. You cannot do that. What on earth were you thinking? And then the kid starts crying. And then mum says to dad, look what you've done. I'll have to pick up the pieces now. Then mum comes and gives them a hug. And then it ends up with dad apologizing and whatever. And that's taken as a normal situation. Whereas actually when dad really speaks very firmly, really has a go at them, really tells them off, tells them what's what, and maybe they start crying. At that point, maybe the message would be, all right, that's good. Dad's done his job. The message has got through, and the child has appreciated the gravity of this issue. But no, that's very definitely not something that's presented in our culture. Right, schools. Schools go out of their way in general to undermine adult authority. And most schools in Scotland, I would say, are places where pupils learn to disobey and disrespect adults, which is tragic, isn't it? I mean, it's a really sad state of affairs. I think in almost all schools in Scotland, the word obedience is just never spoken. To bring up in a staff meeting, I'm a bit concerned that the pupils are disobedient. They need to do as they're told. I think generally the response would be, oh, that's terrible. What sort of Victorian tyrant have we got here? Obviously we've moved on from this sort of thinking. Well, we may have moved on from it and look at the problems it's creating. So children's rights as well feeds into this same thing, as does the idea that the children shouldn't be punished. They just need restorative counselling sessions. And as well, the other aspect of it is that whenever a pupil misbehaves, the thought is that there's always an excuse, that it's being caused by something. What's happened in the background to cause them to behave like this? And the problem is, what's happening now in schools is there are so many pupils who are, if you like, psychologically or emotionally damaged by their upbringing or things that have happened in their life, then they genuinely, in many cases, actually can't behave. And so as soon as you've got a pupil in your class who actually can't behave, then it's really difficult to maintain any sort of discipline with the rest of the class. If they see Fred getting away with all sorts of things, then how on earth are you supposed to stop the rest of the class doing that? So I think that within a class, the behaviour has got to be excellent. And if that means removing some pupils, they've got to go. Now, what's done with them when they're somewhere else? Well, let's make that as positive and formative and useful as possible. But the top priority has got to be that behaviour in the class is excellent. That's, no negotiation on that. Right, what else needs to be done about this? An emphasis with young people on character formation. So instead of learning about equality and diversity and inclusion, how about learning about like right and wrong, integrity, genuine character qualities? Teach them explicitly in school. I think through activities. This doesn't have to be implicit. You can learn them. It doesn't have to be explicit. They can be learned implicitly as well through sports and other activities. Yeah, but through school and also in the family. But that needs to be made explicit again, as it was in previous generations, I would say. Whereas there used to be an explicit, almost a curriculum of character qualities and moral virtues that children need to be taught, then that's been replaced by basically sort of politicized indoctrination sessions. We need to get back to character formation and virtues. And these children as well, they're living in basically a degraded and self-indulgent culture. And they'll be encountering that online and through the media. What can we do about that? Well, we can limit online time, but basically there isn't really a solution to that. That's just going to be there. That's on the other side of the scales, but that means we need to try even harder to put good things on the other side of the scales to outweigh them. I mean, ultimately in Scotland, the philosophy tends to be that people in general, children especially, they're not really responsible for their actions. And also children are special. Absolutely agree. Children are special, but that doesn't mean that they're like inherently good. They're not little angels. They do things wrong and they need pulling up for it. And there's also this culture that the children are the most important. Well, in some ways they are. Yep, I get that. I would say, yeah, special value for children. But that doesn't mean that that they need to be mollycoddled, that they can call the shots, that they're the ones who are in charge. There's also the culture that basically adults have caused all the problems in the world. It's children who are the innocent ones who are going to have to sort them all out. Well, yeah, part of these problems caused are the things I've been talking about now. But again, telling children, effectively, it's you who are the fount of wisdom, and adults, well, it's your job to sort them out. That undermines proper adult authority. The other message coming through, particularly from politics, but other sources as well, is basically you deserve everything, and it's our job to do for you everything you need and give you everything that you want. Again, not a helpful message. So the upshot of these failures of moral formation, if you like, among children, well, part of it is inequality. Because what will tend to happen is where you have areas with this antisocial behaviour, very high levels of family dysfunction, schools with very high proportion of pupils with serious problems, so the schools are basically mayhem. If you've got plenty of money, you can buy your way out of that area, go to another area where those problems are going to be far less pronounced. And so in terms of polarisation, or growing inequality in society, these issues are going to produce that, and that is a negative effect. So as I said at the beginning, I don't think anyone will claim that there's not a very significant problem in this area, and other parties might be absolute experts in the problem. They can lay out where the misbehaviour is happening, they can tell you all the stories, but what can they do about it? Well, they go a bit quiet on that point. What I would say is the Scottish Family Party, as well as being an expert in the problem, we've got real solutions to bring as well in the short term, the medium term and the longer term. Right, hope that was interesting. Get your tickets to our conference, which is just in a couple of days' time in Glasgow. There's a link below. We'd love to see you there. Right, thanks for watching.